My boss is terrible, period, I gotta punctuate it. I said I loved your shirt, but behind your back I said I hate it. May lightning strike me down if I lied, may no one be around when my tongue's untied. Everybody says it's okay, all the little things I say with my big fat mouth. La 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 la. My big fat mouth.
My big fat mouth gets me in trouble.
And boy, it's been tough. We've dealt with complaining, we've dealt with criticism, and last week the big kicker was lying. But this week we got one that's going to even be a little harder, and that's why I chose it to be last. We're going to talk about that word nobody likes to talk about, but everybody at one time or another usually gets involved in, whether you're a listener or you're the speaker, or you're the person spoken of. We're going to talk today about gossip. And that is a destructive thing. And of course, we started this whole series by talking about what Jesus said over there in Luke chapter 6. In Luke chapter 6, verse 45, Jesus said that a good man out of the goodness of his heart puts out good things, and an evil man out of the evil of his heart puts out evil things. But he finishes with this whole statement. He says, for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. And that is so scary when you, and unless you're not practicing last week, so you're going to lie. The truth of the matter, the Bible tells us this, and I'm not just exaggerating, making this up. The Bible tells us that deep down inside of all of our hearts, that all of our hearts are desperately wicked. They're evil. Jeremiah said that. Actually, God told Jeremiah that. And that's the truth. And I don't like to hear that truth because I like to think a lot more of me than I should. But the truth of the matter is deep down inside, I'm critical. I like to complain a lot. People always ask me, how you doing? I'm like, I hate to answer that question because I'm either going to lie or I'm going to complain. One of those two things. I'm going to lie that I'm doing good, or I'm going to complain about how bad I'm doing. And those are the hard things. But that's the nature of it, because there's evil in my heart. And we said this, that the words of our mouth have the power of life and death. I mean, you've seen internet stories, you've seen news stories, you've seen it where people literally have killed themselves over something someone has said to them. Wars have been started historically over things that were said. And that's so scary. And today we're going to talk about this subject that really, and honestly, how many of you guys have ever heard somebody gossip before? You can raise your hand. I didn't say you. I mean, honestly, we probably have. And yet, it's so disconcerting. We all know gossip's wrong. Everybody knows that. Just like we knew lying was wrong. Just like we knew complaining and criticism was wrong. But here's the problem. The question is, why do we do it? And do you know their answer is in the Bible? And if you have your Bibles, the passage I want to go to is Proverbs. And Proverbs has so much to say. In fact, we're going to be in a lot of different places today. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 8. And this is so interesting of a verse. It says, the words of a gossip. The words of a gossip are like, and here it is, choice morsels. Got a visual illustration today. And this is just perfect too. Now, I don't know, maybe you're not. I'm not a big sweet, my wife, where's she at? I'm not a big sweet eater, am I? I can pass most of the time. But if I had a candy that I really would like, it would be this one. It is peanut M&M. Peanut M&M. Peanut M&M. You hear me, folks? Peanut M&M, they're the greatest. Not that brownie stuff. Now, I know some of you are like, I don't care what it is. It's long. No, I do care. Peanut M&M. Okay? Now, here's the bad news on this. Peanut M&Ms are the quickest candy to raise your glycemic index, quicker than any other candy out there. I don't know why. I learned that through my diabetes education because I am a diabetic, so this is danger for me. But according to Proverbs 18, verse 8, the words of a gossip are like choice morsels, M&M, peanut M&Ms. They go down to the innermost parts. You know what's perfect about this? This bag is, for this illustration, is sharing size. You can't see it, but it says sharing size. Because isn't that what we do with gossip? And here's what he's talking about. If I can find how to open this bag. Anybody hungry in here? My favorite candy. They make it hard to get into. And I'm not one of those people that cares what colors. I don't care. I'm going to eat them all. But see, what happens is they're like choice morsels. They're so sweet. They're so good. That peanut and that M&M and it's so good. That I want another one. It is, and that's the problem with gossip, isn't it? It is a sharing size. And J.A., we like to share. Come here. Come here. It is, isn't it? And we do this, and we keep, because the words of a gossip are just like choice morsels. Do you get what he's saying here? What he's saying in this truth, and I do love these. I probably could sit here and eat the whole thing. I shouldn't, but I could. We sit there and we get addicted to these choice morsels that go deep inside of us. And my doctor would say, yeah, they go deep inside me too. But I told you something that was so important. I'm a diabetic. This raises the glycemic index, and that means my blood sugar goes sky high. You know what this bag represents to me? Death. Death. See, as much as I like the taste, and as much as they feel good going deep inside, it hurts me. It tears me up. My friend, you can have these because I'll die. Now, I don't want to see you eating them during service, but since he came up and did all that. Actually, he helped me move pews today, and so and I probably owe the rest of the guys too, but J.A., he put up with me telling them to do the wrong thing. But anyway, it's been said, and maybe you've heard this statement, that gossip can go around the world before the truth gets out of bed. I don't know if you've ever heard that statement before. It's an old statement. And I think it's even more true today, especially in the day of our social media and internet. By the way, side note, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Don't believe everything on social media. In fact, most of those are just the exaggerations of the truth. Okay? I had to get that off my chest. I should have stepped aside because there's no podium here, but that's not preaching, that's just the truth. But I think what we get to when we get to Proverbs chapter 18, verse 8, and hopefully you get the truth here, is we become addicts of something that's harmful for us, and we keep putting that sugar in us, and we keep putting death in us. And before we know it, we're toxic. We're sick because that choice morsel, that peanut M&M has gone down to the innermost part of me, and it's now eating me alive from the inside. See, all the other things, yes, they've done their harm too in every week, and we've talked about this, but I believe out of all the subjects we're going to talk about today in this series, that gossip may be the most vile and worst. In fact, it's so important that God actually, in part of the book of Proverbs, he says there's 6 things that God hates, and yes, 7 are abomination. And one of them, he doesn't call it out as gossip, he calls it out as a person who sows discord among the brethren, among the believers, among the group. And God doesn't say it's just something he discourages. He says it makes him sick, just like we talked about last week. It's an abomination. And what we're talking about here is this whole idea of gossip is so dangerous for us, just like a diabetic eating M&M peanuts. And yeah, we get the sharing size bag, and what do? Just like I did, we pass it along to somebody else. And you know what they do? Oh, that was nice. They ought to go do an act of kindness too. By the way, sharing gossip does not count as one of your kindness initiative acts of kindness. It doesn't. See, the truth of the matter is we've laughed a little bit about this, and I want this to stick with you. That's why I want you to laugh a little bit, but here's the truth. Probably everybody in this room could name a time when they either used words of gossip and hurt somebody, or somebody used words that hurt them, or they know of somebody that got hurt by gossip. And it's a dangerous thing. I literally have seen people walk away from Jesus Christ, walk away from the church, walk away from everything good because of the words of a gossip. And it happened within the walls of a church. I've seen pastors lose their ministry, walk away from serving God because people in their church gossiped about them. I've seen tragedy happen. And it shapes who we are. And that's what the truth there of this whole choice morsels. It's something that's so appealing to us, isn't it? We love to hear those juicy things. And really, a lot of times what we do is we sit down, as Bob would say, we tell those little white truths or white lies, and we make them choice morsels, right? In fact, be honest with you people, you know where most of our gossip's happening these days in church? Prayer request time. Hey, I've got a prayer request for you, but I'm going to tell you all the story. You know, you don't need to tell the story about somebody's sordid life and their details, do you? Why do we like to do that? Because it tastes good when it goes down. It's like those peanut M&Ms, and we get addicted, and we start asking like questions like, "What? How did that happen? What? I need to know more." No, you don't. No, you don't. God knows what needs to be known. And when we do that and we go, "I'm just praying for a person," no, we're not. We're actually gossiping about a person. And sometimes we just, hey, we want to actually say things like, "Well, you know, I can't help it. It is true." That's how we justify things, isn't it? It is true, right? We were talking about this morning, weren't we, Ben? It is true. But that's not good enough, because here's the truth I want you to get. Everything, and this is so important, everything that is said should be true. Everybody knows that one. That was not a big revelation here. But here's what my wife has taught me, and here's what we need to absorb and keep, because this is what my wife would tell my kids all the time, that gossip doesn't have to, or not everything true has to be said. Not everything true has to be said. Everything that's said has to be true, but not everything true must be said. Right? Now, I didn't say lie. Don't twist that. Just because it's true doesn't have to be verbalized. Is that how my wife would say it? Absolutely. And yet she's still saying it to our kids. I'll make sure you know she's saying it to our kids. She's not saying it, well, she does say it to me every once in a while. Because we all know this, the truth hurts, doesn't it? And I would go even one more step. Sometimes the truth kills, crushes, destroys. It's true, though. And you know why sometimes the world turns away from Christians? Because, like I've said in previous messages, we wield the truth like it's a hammer. We're all about the truth. And we love to say, hey, Jesus was the way, the truth, and the life, and he is. I'm not saying he's not. But Jesus was also 100% truth and 100% grace. And not everything true must be said. And that's how we have to face our life as we go through. And so, as we look into Proverbs chapter, as we look into this, Proverbs chapter 18 and verse number 21, the author of Proverbs says this, in Proverbs 18:21, the tongue has power of life and death. If you didn't know where that was found, the tongue has power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And that's so important that we understand that. It goes hand in hand with what we just talked about, the M&Ms. And we've got to be careful. What do we really love? Those choice morsels of gossip, or the truth of God's word coupled with the love of God? So the question we come down to, and the question we have to wrestle with today, is what do you want to be known for? And even more so than this, let me couple this with, what does Maple Springs Baptist Church want to be known for? What do we need to know? What do we need to be? And that's where we're at. And so the question we're going to ask a couple of questions that are just simple, and this is going to be hopefully a very practical application of what God's word says, and I want you to see this. We're going to be definitely out throughout the book of Proverbs today. But the book of Proverbs, the first question we have to ask is, and this is a simple one, who does gossip really hurt? And there are at least three people I can think of who gossip hurts. First of all, we know this to be true. Gossip hurts the person that's spoken about. I mean, good grief, that's the person, and it really is almost the intended target. And this is obvious. I mean, you didn't have to sit down and go, well, man, I didn't know that. Gossip hurts the person that's spoken about, so why do we do it? Because it's choice morsels, right? Because it sounds good, because I love them M&M peanuts, and I keep throwing them down, and man, it just sounds so good. Gossip hurts the person that's spoken about. In the book of Proverbs, over in chapter 16, verse number 28, it says this, and note the words he uses. A perverse person. Some of the translations use wicked person, but in the original language, when you talk about this perverse person, this wicked person, this is the same person that is evil in his deep innermost parts. Okay, stop. Let's connect some scripture. What did we start off with? The gossip likes to gossip, and it's like choice morsels that go where? Deep innermost person. So this perverse person would be the person that is gossiping. He likes to gossip, and he's become perverted in his thoughts towards others, and it stirs up conflict. And a gossip, here we go, because they're tying these words together. What does it do? Separates close friends. Right? Because you know this, a gossip never unites people, does it? Gossip is a divisive thing. Gossip always separates people. Gossip always divides families, divides churches, divides relationships. And that's what they're saying here in Proverbs chapter 16. It may be tasty to the person who is the gossip, but you know what? It hurts the person who's gossiped about, and it hurts them to the point where they walk away. And it doesn't seem to bother us because deep down that taste is so good, we find ourselves looking to the next person saying, do you know this about that person? And we keep dividing and we keep hurting, and the person we divide out, they have no place to come. That's so sad. And what we need to understand is, you know, in the point of our lives, if we ever get to that point where we find ourselves the victim of other people's bitterness, their smallness, their insecurities, you know, you need to remember this. If you're the victim, you're the person that's wounded by gossip, this is what you need to know. The best news is you could be them. And they don't even realize the sickness they're bringing on. The second person or second group of people is not just the person that we're speaking of, but it's the listener. Now, this is a lot of us. We sit back and we like, well, I didn't say it. I didn't say it, and it wasn't said about me, so I'm sort of a neutral party. No, you're not. Biblically, you're not. Gossip hurts the listener. In fact, I would tell you this. As a listener, we always said this. Hey, you ought to tell people, my ears are not garbage cans. My ears are not garbage cans. I don't want to hear it. But that's sort of hard to say sometimes, and it's difficult, especially if you want to hurt people's feelings. But here in Proverbs chapter 17, verse number 4, the author of Proverbs tells us a wicked person, there again, same type of language, a perverse person, a wicked person, listens. Now, he didn't say the person who speaks. He said the person who's wicked is the person who listens. A wicked person listens to deceitful lips, and a liar pays attention to destructive tongue. Hey, but it's true, isn't it? Hey, you shouldn't be listening to it. That's what the Bible tells us. Proverbs 17 helps us. Because here's what we all know, is once that person who's been speaking gossip starts saying things about the person they're talking about, and you leave the room, guess who the target is now? It's probably you. So the idea that we should follow, and here's a simple truth just to put down in your mind as we're going through, is what you permit, you promote. Did you get that? What you permit, you promote. When you let people say bad things about other people in your presence and you don't say anything about it, well, I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. What you permit, you promote. That's a biblical precept. You're helping that, and you know what? As a listener, you've become the wicked one. Because you've permitted something, you're now promoting it. What you permit, you promote. The third and obvious is the person that that gossip hurts is the speaker. The speaker. In Proverbs chapter 25, verses number 9 and 10, the author of Proverbs gives us a real life situation. And he says this in verse 9. He says, if you take your neighbor to court, do not betray them. Do not betray another's confidence. And he stops there and he gives us this whole idea. And he's talking about, wait a minute, taking them to court, and this has got to be a court setting. He says, do not betray another's confidence in verse number 9. But in verse number 10, he goes on to say that if we do this, we're going to end up paying the price. He says in verse number 10 of Proverbs chapter 25, he says, or the one who hears it may shame you and and the charge against you will stand. What a gossip's doing is when you speak it and you're betraying another's confidence, and get the picture, he's saying, hey, somebody comes and accuses you of something, and so your only way out is to gossip, spread gossip about that person to get out of it. Well, the person that you say told you that gossip, they're going to come back and they're going to tear you down for it. That's the speaker, and he gives us this whole truth. So the question we have in these three goes back to our question, what do you want to be known for? What does Maple Springs want to be known for? You would much rather be known as a person who can be trusted, I would believe. So what we have to learn is this truth, that we shouldn't invent things with our small mind and share it with our big mouth. That's the truth. Don't invent things with our small minds, because really, if you go through the book of Proverbs, what you find is these things are small-minded things. These are small-minded things, yet we use our big mouth to display them. That's what James would tell us too in his passage. So the next question, and this is probably the more important of the two questions. We probably knew the answer to all the who, but now what do we do about it? So what do you do practically about gossip? How do we stop gossip? And there's basically just two things. First of all, number one, guard your ears. We already said, hey, my ears aren't garbage cans, so let's stop that. But when you practically want to stop gossip with one question, the one question I would ask is this: why are you telling me this? You get into a situation, you want to stop somebody who's gossiping, look at them and just look them straight in the eye and say, so why are you telling me this? So the next time somebody comes up and says, hey, did you hear about Ben? Ben has been, and they start telling you all these things, just look and say, why are you telling me about this? Now, that creates an awkward thing, and a lot of people are probably uncomfortable doing that. So let me help you out with another question you can ask. Really has a real biblical basis for it. You could ask this, and I didn't put this one on my notes as far as on screen, but you can ask this: have you spoken with Ben or whoever about this? Have you spoken to whoever about this? If you're that concerned, have you spoken to the person that you're talking about the situation? And the reason I say that is because this is directly out of Jesus' teaching. In Matthew chapter 18, Jesus lays the foundation for how to deal with discipline within the church in a Christian setting. And he says this one verse here, and it gives us this basis for this question here. He says this: if your brother or sister sins. Now, it's got to be someone that is under a common bond of Christ, right? He says, if your brother or sister sins, and he doesn't get specific on what kind of sin. It could be anything. If your brother or sister does anything, he's not going to list like certain sins are worse than others. All sin. If your brother or sister sins, go out, go and point out their fault. Now, what he's not doing is saying, hey, get out a big sign and go, look at Audrey, look what she did, everybody, I want you to see it. He's not saying that. What he's saying is, if I have an issue, then I go to that person. In fact, he goes on to say, just between the two of you. He says, so you should go and talk to the person one-on-one. So if I had a problem with Audrey, I'm supposed to go to Audrey and say, hey, Audrey, this is my problem. And then he says this: if they listen to you, you have won them over. So we're dealing with the area of gossip. So if I find, hey, Audrey's been talking about Ben. Hey, you know what I should do is go, hey, Audrey, I've got this problem. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I'm just using her as an example, by the way. She hasn't been doing this. But, hey, Audrey, I don't know what's going on here, but I see this as a problem. And have you talked to Ben about this? And when she says, oh, I didn't realize it was a problem. No, I haven't. Then most of the time, the Bible says you've won them over. Now, it goes on to tell you what to do, and it could get bigger and all that, and we're not going to do that. But what we want to do is ask that question: why are you telling me this? You're talking to me about Ben. I'm not Ben. Right? Why are you talking to me about Ben? If I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. So don't make me a bigger part of the problem. That's what I'm saying. I don't have to know. So why are you talking to me? Or better yet, have you considered talking to Ben about this? Or whoever. We're just using some names here so you understand how this works. And I think that happens to take down the tension quite a bit when we do these things. See, ultimately, though, when we talk about this whole guarding of our ears, ultimately the Bible teaches that we should make sure we're not hanging out with that person who's doing the gossiping. And that's hardcore, I know that. And that means we might have to sever some relationships. And the biblical foundation for this is found in Proverbs chapter 20. I told you we've been all over the place in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 19, the Bible says, a gossip betrays confidence. We know that. That's why gossips are so hard to have. But avoid anyone, that's what the Bible says, but avoid anyone who talks too much. And when he says that, he's not talking about somebody who just talks a lot. He's talking about someone who talks in gossip too much. Someone who uses too many words the wrong way. Someone who's using their big fat mouth to hurt people. And that's the biblical foundation for it. So it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I don't need that person in my life because they're feeding me M&Ms. And they taste good. They're choice morsels. But just like I was giving M&Ms to my friend J.A., if that really was gossip, he should walk away. Say, no, thank you. Of course, he liked the M&Ms, so he's keeping them. But that's the truth. And that's the hard part. Did you notice how hard that is? See, it's easy to say, well, when it's gossip, I'll walk away. But when it was M&Ms, hey, I didn't see J.A. going, no, I don't want those M&Ms. Did you? No, they were good. Because everybody likes M&Ms. And that's sometimes how we feel about gossip. And that's why it keeps spreading, because we like those choice morsels that go down deep into the innermost parts. The second thing we should do is not just guard our ears, but on the proactive side for us, we need to close our mouth. Close your mouth. That's so hard to do too, because we just get, as I used to tell my kids, hey, don't be guilty of having diarrhea of the mouth. That's such an easy thing to do. Watch your tongue, keep your mouth shut, and stay out of trouble is what my mom would say. And that's good. In fact, my dad would say it this way. As we were kids, he'd always say, children are to be seen and not heard, and very seldom seen. He always repeated that one. Now, that may be not the thing to do, but we need to learn the lesson. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should listen more than we speak. And that is the truth. And I struggle with that just like anybody. In fact, ask yourself the question, when you get ready to say something, would you want someone saying that about you? Luke chapter 6 and verse 31, the golden rule, Jesus told us, hey, we're supposed to do to others as you would have them do to you. So when you say things, I don't care if they're true or not. If you remember, that's where we started. That was the foundation, because we use that as an excuse to hurt people. Just like my wife taught me, hey, whatever we say should be true, but not everything true should be said. In fact, say that with me. Not everything true should be said. Say it one more time. Not everything true should be said. Wow. And that would change everything if we did that. Because we have this problem. See, the ultimate problem in this whole series, whether it was complaining, criticism, lying, or gossip, it really wasn't our mouth. I know the series is called My Big Fat Mouth. But the ultimate problem isn't really our big fat mouth. It's our broken and sin-stained heart. That's what Jesus said back in Luke 6:45, wasn't it? The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. That's the overwhelming truth that we've come to realize. And we have a healthy desire in our lives that is a misguided desire. Most of us, our healthy desire is we want to be better. And that's a good thing. It's the American dream, be better. Like to better myself, better. But the problem is we take the junior high approach to being better. If you don't know what the junior high approach is, when you're in junior high, in order to look better, you tear the other guys down. It's true. Any of you guys that are junior high, I'm sorry, but that's true how it works. It's a very junior high way of doing it. We tear everybody else down, and you know what? I know a lot of grown adults who act like junior hires in that their gossip seeks to tear somebody else down. Hey, I'll look better if they look bad. And that doesn't work. It doesn't. Because when you try that approach, we all look back at the person doing that and going, yeah, that person doesn't really look better, do they? They look like they're trashing somebody else. They look like they're bad attitude. They've said the wrong things, and I don't want to be like them, and nobody wants to be like them. We want to be important because in our sinful nature, we know we're less, but we want to be more, and so we think getting to be more means making someone else look like they're less, and that's not it. See, the ultimate truth, the takeaway that I have for you today is this. Gossip claims, I'm strong because you're weak. That's what gossip claims. I'm strong because you're weak. But here's the truth. The gospel proclaims, I am weak because he's strong. And that's the way we're supposed to live. And if we did that, we'd be able to bless the people who live around us. We'd be a blessing to our community. We'd be a blessing to our state. We'd be a blessing to our neighbors. See, I don't have to make someone look weaker to make me look better, because I can't do that. And remember, as we've learned through this whole series, Satan, he lies. He's leaning into your life and he's telling you things that aren't true. He's telling you things that'll get you dismayed. He's getting you off because he wants you to speak his native language, which is lying. We're supposed to be speaking life. Jesus Christ, he was the way, the truth, and not just the truth, but the life. And that's what we need to be. See, when I look at Maple Springs and I think of the future of Maple Springs, you know what I want to see? I want to see church members that aren't gossips, liars, critics, complainers, but they're life givers. They're hope dealers. They breathe life into people's lives. So what we need to do is we need to stop talking about others to make us look better. Wouldn't it be great, instead of getting caught telling a lie, getting caught complaining, getting caught criticizing, getting caught gossiping about somebody, that someone caught you encouraging somebody else? Somebody caught you lifting somebody else up. Somebody caught you strengthening someone else. That's what God wants. So the question we end with today is, what do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known for life-giving? Or do you want to be known as the gossip, who's got some tasty, choice morsels, some M&Ms, and they're willing to share with you, but eventually it's going to tear you up, it's going to hurt you?